Tom, this one's for you. All right, welcome back to another episode of Stitch Method. This is going to be a shorter type lesson that I'm going to cut into many pieces so that you can take it one piece at a time and not have too much to digest. Whipping post, highly requested, and I really wanted to put my best foot forward on this and give you something that's you can digest, because there's so much to do in whipping post. Believe it or not, as easy as a backing track of a jam it is, there's a lot of responsibility that you have as a guitar player to put into this solo. So let's get down right to it. There are many things in these solos between the four guitarists that I listen to play, between Dwayne, Dickie, Derek, and Warren, who have all been in the Allman Brothers Band, some sort of form. All have these little unique tendencies in their solos, but we're going to talk about where the solo usually starts. I'm going to draw like an average graph of all these four guitar players and where they take off. And so we have to discuss the chord progression as usual, but this is just going to be about building your confidence in this opening version or opening section of the whipping post jam. And then we'll get into more and more parts as the days go on. Okay, so here it is. So the chord progression: A minor 7, volume, all time, A minor 7, B minor 7, C, B minor 7, and the simplest way to play that, and you can see many times on stage a lot of guitar players doing it. They just play, you can play an A minor 7 like this, where you're playing the 5th fret of the A and then barring over on the D, G, and B string on the 5th fret, and you see many times they're just playing it, and then they go, that's their A minor 7, because they have a lot of instrumentation on stage. A minor 7 to B minor 7. So those three strings: 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. I'm sorry, 7, 7, 7. So you have 5, 5, 5, 7, 7, 7. And then, believe it or not, for the C chord, they go right back to this A minor 7 form, because that is the piece of the C chord right there, and back. So it sounds like, it really looks like you're just going back and forth, but if you play your cards right, you can hear it going like ba 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 ba. It's like an auditory illusion. We get this. Great jam, and that's the whole palette for our jam section. So let's talk about that. We have an A minor 7, B minor 7, and the C. Well, just in case we don't know, we can see it comes from the key of G. This is in the key of G. It is an A minor progression. Sorry, nope, an A Dorian progression, because it starts on root note number 2, wherever that is on the screen. I'm creeping suspicion to be around here. Anyway, so note number 2, we have an A Dorian progression. If you've watched Stitch Method, you totally understand that. Santana was A Dorian. So now, how is this different from Santana? Well, let's get right down to it. The whole idea of this lesson is for you to build your confidence by really stumbling across what we're about to do, and through repetition and confidence and knowing what notes to hit. All right, so A Dorian jam, and what are we going to use? Well, we are going to use an A Dorian scale, but not in the way that you think. The whole entire opening solos all have this one theme in common, which is they're really trying to stay away from the root note. They hit it several times, but they're trying to stay away. It's what builds that exotic tension that you hear in the beginning of all these solos. So how do we do that? Well, the way not to do it would be to form, the A Dorian scale off of this 5th fret and play 5, 7, 8, 5, 7, 8. Sorry, 5, 7, 8, 5, 7, 4, 5, 7, 4, 5, 7, 5, 7, 8, 5, 7, 8. You don't want to do that, guy. You don't want to do that basic Dorian, because what's happening is your brain is really seeing those root notes, and you're so used to kind of seeing the pentatonic in there and playing that stuff and coming home. So what do these guys do? What's really interesting is they actually take that shape, and in part 2, we're going to talk about that shape. That shape comes into play, but not right now. What they do is they actually just play G major scales. The G major scale is, again, A Dorian. It's the same exact notes. So you see them playing all the way from down here to up here. And so I'm going to go over that G major scale for you. And when you play a G major scale on top of an A Dorian progression, it's the same thing. What happens, though, is that your fingers aren't used to naturally coming home to a root note. And that's very important, because that's the sound we're looking for. And so if we start here in the 3rd fret of the E string, we can play 3, 5, 2, 3, 5, 2, 4, 5. And this is the Stitch Method major scale, or the Never Lost major. It's on my channel if you want to see it. There's your pinky, right? You put your middle finger on that root note, and you play 5, 7, 4, 5, 7, 5, 7, 8. And there it is. And then we're going to play 8, 10, 7, 8, 10. And we're out of room. That's as far as we need to go. So you have this monster G major scale, which is really A Dorian if the chord progression makes it A Dorian. So all I'm going to do right now is I'm going to turn on my distortion, I'm going to play that backing track, and you're just going to hear me climb up the scale and hear that nothing's wrong. Here we go. So now you can hear the formula works. And so let's talk about a couple things. Number one, well, to build this tension, or to build this feel, first you come in with very short bursts of musicality, short little sentences, and you don't end them on the root note. Okay, so you got to know where that root note is, where the A's are. So the A is every second note of that scale. 1, 2. That's an A. Volume. That's an A. That's an A. Get some more volume there, right? That's an A. And that's an A. So you want to know where those A's are. You can use them as passing tones. Sorry, but you don't want to hit them. So all I'm going to do right now is do little short bursts. I'm going to turn my distortion on, and I'm going to try to say things without touching those A notes. And again, short and sweet is how they come in, like. When I stay away, and I apologize because I totally screwed up, but when you stay away from the root note, it has that sound that like Derek Trucks and Dickie Betts start to get. And so we want to really discover that. So I suggest you take this time to get a backing track, look up a backing track on YouTube of Whipping Post, and start to get in this G major orientation over A Dorian, because like I said, it's the root notes of the A that you want to stay away from. Well, let's just talk about some notes that you can go to help you out. The most common note that these guys sit on and create a lot of music with in this section, this opening part of Whipping Post of the jam, is the B. And so it's if you look at anytime you can find an A, it's the third note of G, or it's the note after A. So G, A, B. There's a B. There's a G, and then G, A, B. And you kind of want to spot these. Go slow and find them. If I make a chart for this, if I decide to, I'll have it. If you don't see a chart, then I didn't decide to make a chart. But you have your A, you have your B, and any place you have your G, it's A and then B. So you start to learn some notes on the fretboard, which can't hurt you, right? G, A, B, G, A, B, G, A, B. So I'm going to turn my distortion on. I'm going to come in slow. And I'm going to try and focus on staying away from resolving on the root note. Again, you can totally like use it, but I'm going to be pausing on notes that are not the root notes. Let's see if we can do this. Totally hit a wrong note there again. Man, doing really well. But you can hear how it gets that nice exotic sound. And so staying away from the A, really focusing on the B, is where you want to start saying stuff. Now, let's talk about the real reason this lesson exists right now. Again, it's part one. We have a lot to do for Whipping Post. But I just want to get this into your bones. Like, practice this, because we're going to stack everything. You want to start saying things on the guitar. And in the beginning portion of this solo is when you get to say your stuff very clearly and very calmly. And so what I mean by that is, don't be afraid to repeat things that you do and have it punch at, like, to say something, as if you need to repeat something over and over again until someone gets the point. You hear this in Derek Trucks, Dickie, Dwayne, and Warren, that they are not afraid to duplicate their riffs, okay? And so practice this scale, staying away from the A as a resolve, putting your B in, and also don't be afraid to duplicate things and then move forward. Something a little like this. Let's see how we do. So now you heard that I try to repeat some things, and that this is what this lesson is about, is learning your path and learning that just playing the path itself does not give you anything spectacular, but working it, staying away from your root note, working in patterns of things that you do physically that give the listener something to bind to, because you're not resolving, you're adding this tension. Now, before we get going, it's a short lesson. Again, this is just part one on how to handle the beginning part of whipping post. What you want to do is you want to find that one special note that Dickie Betts puts in. Now, he is the premier guitar player that uses this note. You don't really find it a lot on the other three guitar players, but nonetheless, it's super identifiable if you're a whipping post fan. And that is the flat 5 of this scale of the. What we're going to do is we're going to talk about it again as an A Dorian, and really it's an A Dorian blues scale that Dickie uses a lot. So what does that mean? So if I go back to the regular shape I showed you of that Dorian scale, it's the flat 5. It's that guy, the E flats. All right, so now, instead of really trying to figure out where they go, this is such a good exercise to realize, well, your E flat is the special sauce. And so if you can find your E flats anywhere, like for instance, there's your E on the 5th for the B, that's your E flat. All right, if you have an E up here, that's your E flat. In this jam, it's your E flat that is Dickie Betts' very special note. And so when we have this A Dorian scale, or G major scale, however you want to think about it, but we put in that E flat, really we have this A Dorian like blues type scale, because we have a flat 5 off of the progression, which is the A. It's the flat 5 of where we start. And so what you can do now is, if you want to get that Dickie Betts signature like tension move, is do everything we're talking about and sparingly, not all the time, put in any E flat that you can find. The favorite one that he uses is definitely the 4th fret of that B string. It's without a doubt there. If you want to try finding it here, it's okay, but let me show you where another one is. That 1st fret of the D string. Dickie Betts and Derek Trucks do this move all the time, where they actually open up starting on the A string, A, and they go 0, 0, 2, 3. It's the same thing as going, but they go bum, 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 and they go to the open D, and then they hit that E flat, take it to the E, and then they hop onto that scale, and they get in. So he has very famous beginning, like, that. And so I'm going to play that for you. Now what I'm going to try and do is, let's see if you can spot when I'm putting in the E flat here, or the E flat here, and stay away from your A's. Use that G major scale shape. It's going to help you, miss those root notes intentionally, or the A's. And listen to see if you can find everything I'm doing. Here we go. can see right here, we're just starting to build the solo. And this is where the solo starts. This isn't everything in the solo. We have a lot more to do to build their tension and get up here and start rocking. But I want you guys to focus on this. And so, let's talk about the recaps of everything. Number one, it's an A Dorian jam. If we focus too much on A Dorian scale shapes, we tend to hit the root note too much, and we don't get that tension. So we reshape our scale back to the key scale, which is the G major scale shape, which I showed you in the video. You want to stay away from the A's, you kind of want to hit the B's a lot, and you want to repeat things that you do. And you don't have to go fast, you can go slow. And then if you want to get that Dickie Bet sound, you could add in the E flat, which is the flat 5 of our progression. This is where we start, right here. No more, no less. Part 2 will be out very, very, very soon. I'm not going to let it hang for years. And so practice this. Just start practicing this and getting very fluid in it. And that's what I wanted to do with you guys. So I hope you enjoyed it. Get started. This is part 1. And have this stuff locked and loaded so that when we get to part 2, you're not like, well, what did we do in part 1? If that made sense. All right, get out of here, guys. Have a good day. Bye-bye.